Welcome to another great adventure over here on RJB Wildlife. On this adventure, we're here at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park where I'm going to be giving you the State of the Park update. So if you're ready for another great adventure, let's go. As we enter the park, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping notes that are similar to what we covered over in our State of the Zoo report at the San Diego Zoo, and that is the fact that maps are no longer going to be available here as well. You can download the Safari Park app. It is going to be a separate app from San Diego Zoo, and it's going to be strictly exclusive to this park. And another very important thing to take note of as we enter the summer months here at the Safari Park is that the hours are going to be changing. They're going to be pushed back to 8 to 4 p.m. rather than the current 9 to 5, and that is slated to start this Saturday on June 14th. This change is going to go through August 31st, so all the way up to September, and during that entire duration, if you are a member and take advantage of the early member hours, which is when at both the zoo and the park you can come an hour earlier if you're a member, that is not going to be happening here at the park throughout the summer. As you enter the zoo and make your way into Safari Base Camp, there's a couple things I want to point out. At the very entry, in that first habitat, there's going to be a couple of Hawaiian geese, or nenes, in that habitat that used to house the crested screamers. The crested screamers were difficult to move off habitat every day, so they just decided to replace them with something else a little more manageable. And the flamingo lagoon is filled with water, and this is not because the flamingos are back, it's because capybaras have started to use the space intermittently with the ambassador staff. And I was informed by a care specialist that there are plans to create a permanent habitat for the capybaras here. So who knows where that's going to be. It's not likely to be the Flamingo Lagoon, but somewhere else within the Nairobi Village Safari Base Camp area. So we are now over here in Nairobi Village, and in this area there's not a ton to report on. Over in the Nairobi Nursery, or the Wildlife Explorers Theater area, the Angolan pythons have been moved a couple habitats over. In that area, it's kind of been a habitat musical chairs in a way, where certain animals have been moved to just other areas. And as part of the habitat musical chairs that has gone on in Nairobi Village, it appears that a Burmese python is going to be taking the place of what used to be the kinkajous. So we are currently over here in Gorilla Forest, and I want to piggyback on the news that I discussed last week at the zoo as Paul, Don, and Jessica prepare for their arrival here at the Safari Park. Now, this is all in an effort for the Species Survival Plan and the overall AZA mission in saving this critically endangered species, the western lowland gorilla. Now, in this specific pairing, Paul Don would be paired with Leslie and Joanne, the two younger females that are a part of this troop, and he would actually be reunited with his mother, Camilla, who's actually on habitat right now. We will see how this will ultimately go. This habitat is much larger than the one at the San Diego Zoo, and along with this and the group of 4 gorillas that are here, there's a group of 5 bachelors. We have now ventured into the rainforests of Sumatra, more accurately Tiger Trail. And one thing that I want to bring up here, and I brought it up a little bit earlier in a past video, and that is that Barong is now spending more time in Yard B than he is Yard A. Now the sad part about this is that Barong at 9 months old is now the size of his mother, Jillian. And with that, he's much larger than his half-brother Hutan was at the same age. So we're looking at a possibly massive male Sumatran tiger, which is huge and amazing for the Species Survival Plan. On this trip, he's actually right across from his father, Dumai, so you can kind of get a good comparison of what the father-son appearance is, but I can imagine Barong is going to be much bigger than his father in time. So we are now up here in Condor Ridge, and there's a couple things I want to cover here specifically as there's been a lot of maintenance going on around here, but the biggest piece of news that I have for you guys is that there are now 3 desert bighorn lambs adjacent to the condors. Now, all 3 of these lambs are in fact rams, so they're all boys, and they're going to be kind of frolicking around and playing. They're about a month old to this point. Now, this species of desert bighorn sheep is considered critically endangered, specifically because this specific subspecies is native to the Baja Peninsula regions and even can be found down here in Southern California. And every year around this time, they do end up having lambs as a result of a male that comes in here during the winter season, which is their breeding season. So really cool development over here as, once again, 3 more lambs have joined the group here at the safari park. Condor Ridge has also been the focus of a lot of maintenance work in this area, as they've been working on the anchoring points for the mesh for the aviaries in all of the habitats. This project started with the California condors and desert bighorn sheep and has now spread all the way to the bald eagles, thick-billed parrots, and even the area where the burrowing owls are right behind me, where an original animal will be returning to this attraction, as apparently the ocellated turkeys are set to replace the toko toucans that have been here. So currently, if you're here at the safari park, the burrowing owls are not on habitat, but don't worry, they are going to be here. The gray-winged trumpeters appear to be safe, and the Harris's hawk habitat has been empty for some time, so I don't know if something's going to replace that. But what I can say is, in addition to this, they've been doing a lot of work on the rocks and overall decorations for these habitats, specifically as the bald eagles have gotten a new pool. Over here in Walkabout Australia, to tack on to our hours conversation and the change, there is going to be possibly a very exciting viewing opportunity that you're going to be able to have if you get here early enough with the platypus. The platypus are currently on a timeline as far as the lights are concerned. They are meant to match Australia's time zone. So during the day here, when you're at the park visiting, you're going to be seeing them in their nocturnal setting with the lights off and just some of the nocturnal lights that are on. However, if you get here early enough, you're probably going to be able to see them with the lights on, which is an actually really exciting viewing experience. So we just concluded the Tram, and there's a couple things of note when you go do that experience. In what was the former peninsular pronghorn habitat over the course of the last couple years, they have now brought in 4 addax, which are a critically endangered species of antelope from North Africa. Now, they used to have addax in the African woods section where the greater kudu are currently, but since I've been covering this park, they shortly were removed and have been off habitat ever since. So it's really nice to see another critically endangered species being featured. In the main South African yard, you're going to notice that there are now 2 Maasai giraffe calves. We've covered this previously on the channel. On this trip, I didn't see the second calf. But the male, he's growing up, he's about a month old, and he's already an 8-foot tall individual. Giraffes are born at 6 feet tall, so for him to grow 2 feet in a month is pretty astounding. And on top of that, as a little bit of a surprise, in the Central African yard, which is right in between the South Africa, where there's the big savanna, and then the one that has the bongo, which is going to be at the top of the hill, this habitat now has 2 white-bearded wildebeest calves in it. And on this trip, they were just sleeping close to mom. I'm unsure if they're twins. So we are now over here looking at the African plains, and there's a couple things I want to point out. First of which is going to be the giraffes are back on habitat after their medical stint off habitat and then the hoof trims, but most importantly is going to be what's going on in North Africa. That is going to be that there are Scimitar-Horned Oryx calves that were actually born here within the last few weeks. Now, this species was extinct in the wild all the way up until December of 2023. So it's really exciting and encouraging that we are actually getting offspring born here. And in all likelihood, these offspring could potentially be released back into their native ranges in North Africa. The only issue with viewing the Scimitar-Horned Oryx is that there isn't really a good place to see them. You're either going to view them from this path here, which surrounds the African plains, and get a good look at the North Africa yard up on the hillside, or you can take the tram, which at the very end takes you close up to the backside of that yard. But even then, it's a 50-50 chance of whether or not you're actually going to be able to see the Oryx. We are now over here in African Outpost, which is the furthest point from the entry of the safari park, and there's a couple things of note. First off, and this is a little bit more minor, they did put up a new sign that showcases the names of the Red River hogs that are in the former warthog habitat. This sign is meant to differentiate the individuals, so in the case you're interested in learning the individual animals' names and their appearance, That's what it's here for. The red river hogs are over here, and they did replace the lone male warthog after his mate unfortunately passed away. However, the biggest update in African Outpost happens to revolve around a fan favorite animal, as a secretary bird has actually returned. Now, this is one of the most iconic bird species native to Africa. Here at the safari park, there is a breeding population of secretary birds, and they're all off habitat, as with a lot of species that are actually being bred here. This is a super cool bird, and it's really awesome to have them back. And if you come down here to African Outpost, right between the okapis and the red river hogs, you'll be able to see this magnificent bird. So we are now over here in African Woods, and there's a small little update I want to bring up that involves the okapis. This is Bokasi. He is the male that was born here about 1.5 years ago, and it doesn't involve him. Rather, it involves his mom, Melly, and one of the other males here, Upepo. They have been paired recently, and they've been spending some time on habitat. I've only ever seen them a couple of times, so I don't know if there have been successful pairings or not. However, this is an encouraging sign that we might be able to look forward to a potential Okapi calf here in the near future. One of the most important updates I have for you if you are visiting in the month of June is that you will not be able to see the lions, as Lion Camp is closed until June 30th. This is as a result of the entire boardwalk viewing areas being replaced for the personal safety of the guests. And it is a similar thing that they did over on the Great Rift Lift, which they did in phases over there, as that's a pathway. This is a full exhibition, and from what it appears, they're making good progress on it. They are still working on all of the main posts that will serve as the fences for the path. I still believe they have to replace all of the actual boards. So a couple weeks ago when we did the Elephant Valley update, I did mention that there was a path connecting the Roar and Snore restrooms over to the herb garden, and I'm actually walking on that right now. It is open. So now with this path open, you are actually able to get from Lion Camp all the way to the restrooms to the herb garden without having to go all the way around past Watering Hole in the African Plains. So it's super convenient, but another really important note is that this project is coming together, and this is actually the second area that they've opened up. That's going to do it for today. If you had fun on this journey, please hit the like button. And if you would like to embark on future adventures, please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell. And until next time, I hope to see you all again on the next adventure on RJV Wildlife.